She's having a baby, so we're getting divorced. It was a sudden announcement from my husband of nearly 20 years. But I wasn't surprised. I was aware of his betrayal, so I accepted it easily. I'll just leave our daughter behind. Then my husband shouted, "Take her too." That's impossible. After all, he didn't participate in raising her, so he probably doesn't understand the true meaning of what I said. I lost both parents in an accident when I was a first-year high school student. I was attending a private high school at the time, and I stayed with my relatives for a while, but they only got the insurance money and started treating me coldly. I couldn't get my tuition paid, so I had no choice but to drop out of high school. I left my relatives' house and started working as a live-in employee. In the midst of all this, I met a friend who was 4 years older than me and had also lost her parents, and before I knew it, we had become a supportive couple. I got married at 19, and the following year, at 20, I became a mother. It was a difficult road, but I thought I had found happiness. At the time, I was incredibly happy to finally have a family that I could call my own. A kind husband. And my adorable daughter Rio. I felt like I had finally reached a dreamlike, peaceful life. I want you to stay at home and raise our child until she is 3 years old. I'll work hard. Yes. I'll support my family as well. I was confused about my first time raising a child, but I was doing my best in my own way, encouraged by the sight of my daughter growing up day by day. On weekday mornings, I would take Rio to children's parties and performances. As I did this, I naturally got to know mothers with children the same age as me, and we started to make friends. However, the conversations I had with them started to feel painful to me. If you ask them about something, it's a really casual story, like the other day I left my daughter at my parents' house and went to the movies with my husband, or the other day I had my high school reunion. But each one of them felt like a piercing pain. I no longer have someone I can call a parent. Because I only attended high school for a short time, it was all a distant story for me. Even questions like which high school she went to or if she lived near her parents made me suspect that she was trying to show off her education or boast about her father, and I hated myself for suspecting that. I'm not cut out for a normal relationship with my parents. I was depressed every day, but I still smiled and joined the group, telling myself that it was for Rio's sake. Eventually, my daughter became a junior high school student, and I started working as a full-time employee. I was worried about the future with just my husband's salary, and more than anything, I wanted to save as much money as possible for Rio's future. In the morning, I got up earlier than anyone else to make lunch, and when I got home, I prepared dinner and did housework. It was a hectic day, but it wasn't hard if I thought of it as being for my family. Then one day, my daughter couldn't go to school. She seemed to have had some trouble with a friend, and she couldn't eat, so she couldn't get out of bed for days. After thinking about what I could do for her, I decided to take the plunge and get 2 dogs. Rio was confused at first, but he opened up to the cute puppies and gradually regained his smile. I think I'll go to school again tomorrow. If that's what you want to do, isn't that okay? Mom is always on your side. Thank you. I'll try my best. On the day my daughter passed through the school for the first time in several months, I cried out loud in the car while I was driving her home. However, at that time, my husband was indifferent to my child's refusal to go to school and left everything to me. He would come home late at night on weekdays and go to school alone on weekends, saying he had to go to work. He didn't care about how my daughter was doing, and even when I told him how worried I was, he would just reply with a half-hearted response. One day, a half-hearted wallet with lipstick on it came out of his suit pocket. The moment I saw it, I felt like something inside me had made a sound and collapsed. When I asked him about it timidly, he laughed through his nose. "Oh, maybe you're just a jealous high school dropout, but you're making me laugh." I couldn't say anything more because the words grabbed my heart. He should have known why I went to high school until the end. I felt betrayed by the person I trusted the most. From then on, my husband started to treat me like a fire government. "Hey, I'm still hungry, but work took a little longer today, so I'll be done soon, so please wait. Don't mess with me. If you can't do housework properly, quit your job." Without even looking at the cooking that was close by, my husband said what he wanted to say and went out again. Another day, he looked at the laundry hanging out to dry and said, "The master is still here, isn't he?" I thought he was looking for my flaws, from big things to small things, and he would throw his hands at me every time we met, without saying a word of dislike, and my heart gradually wore down. Still, I told myself that I was patient for the sake of my family, and chose to endure. Time passed, and it was time for Rio to take the high school entrance exam. I wanted to support her more than ever, so I did what I could, such as taking her to and from cram school, preparing dinner, and taking care of her health. However, my daughter's attitude gradually changed. One day, Rio was holding her head in front of a workbook. If there was something I didn't understand, let's think about it together. It's probably impossible for a mother to do it anyway. I spoke to her with good intentions, but she coldly dismissed me. Moreover, her eyes were the same as my friend's. She looked at me as if she was looking down on me. From that day on, my daughter distanced herself from me, and began to act as if she didn't understand anything about Tadafuda's mother. She also started making more remarks criticizing my academic background, and I even saw her and her husband look at each other and laugh softly from time to time. They were both terrible. Furthermore, Tohi started to ignore my existence. We only talked when it was really necessary. She didn't even look me in the eye, and when I spoke to her, she just gave me a curt reply. Although the atmosphere in the home was so tense, Rio successfully passed the entrance exam to a high school that was considered to be the Southern High School. "Congratulations," I said, but my daughter chuckled as if to cut me off. "I'm so glad." She continued that she was not like her mother, and that if I had such a low academic background, I would be ashamed and wouldn't be able to live. At that moment, I felt like my heart was about to burst. Not only had my mother's wish to share my joy with me been trampled on, but I felt like my own existence was also denied. After that, Rio started to completely ignore me. She ate the food I gave her without saying a word, and when I folded the laundry she didn't respond at all, so I became isolated from the rest of the family. The only thing that soothed me were the two dogs I had adopted as part of the family, who were my emotional refuge. I don't know how many times I cried at their presence, snuggling up next to me and giving me warmth without saying a word. My daughter's high school life, which had been full of ups and downs, passed in the blink of an eye, and she was accepted into a famous private university. I've already fulfilled my role as a mother, haven't I? I thought about this when I saw Ree becoming an adult, starting college in the spring and turning 18. My relationship with Tomoaki, who I'd been with for many years, had already cooled, and there was no love or trust left. I didn't think my daughter needed me either. I was thinking that maybe I should leave home and start my own life over. That night, my husband told me something unusual. He said he wanted to tell me that he was getting a divorce because she had a child, as if he was reporting something about work. However, I knew for a long time that he didn't have a heart for me, so I wasn't shocked. I get it. I'll just leave my daughter behind. Tohi looked taken aback by my easy response. He must have thought that I would be even more upset and cry. Take Hari with you. I want to be free. It's impossible. Because, just as I was trying to explain the reason to my husband, who was trying to hide his irritation, my daughter, who was in her room, heard our conversation and came over. I'm going to live with my dad. Dad has the money, right? And I want a sibling. I was at a loss for words when Rio laughed innocently. Tohi looked a little troubled, but eventually reluctantly accepted it. The next morning, I packed my things and left the house with my two beloved dogs. I felt refreshed, as if I was finally free from the house that I had been carrying around with me. When I responded to and filed the divorce papers, I felt like I was finally free in the true sense of the word. Still, when I thought back on my husband and daughter's selfish behavior, anger welled up from the depths of my heart. There was no way I could forgive them for treating the family I had worked hard to create over the years like trash. I wanted to get revenge on them somehow. But maybe I didn't need to do anything directly. Tomoaki was sure to be cornered little by little. Because that child, when I thought of it like that, I suddenly felt lighter, and I was able to spend my heart with someone else while preparing my new life. One day, a while later, I suddenly got a call from my ex-husband. Please pick him up in front of Rio. I want to talk to him while he's out, so please come right away. I couldn't help but sigh at the one-sided voice. I decided to take my dogs for a walk and head to my old home for the first time in a long time. The moment I opened the front door, I was so shocked that I walked away. The house that I used to clean and organize every day was in such a state of disrepair that it was unrecognizable. I hid in the space where clothes were left on the floor and dishes were piled up. When Aki saw my face in the living room, he yelled at me, "Hey, what's going on? He can't do housework at all. What kind of education did you have?" I looked at him calmly and straight. Of course. She was just like you and always treated me like fire. My ex-husband looked a little upset, but he quickly put his face down. Well, you're only worth that much as a middle school dropout. If it were me in the past, I might have been hurt by those words that were spat out. But he's already a stranger. I didn't have any expectations of him, so I was fine with just letting it go. What are you talking about, Rio? I'm busy too, so can't you hurry up? That's right. He's a terrible spender. I raised my voice and asked Tomo, so that's it? Then, he started talking about his daughter as if he was venting his frustration. He always turned his back on me, saying that his allowance wasn't enough, but if I refused, he wouldn't listen. What's really going on with him? I couldn't help but smile bitterly. It wasn't something that just started. The amount of money we had after entering high school changed our relationship a lot. He became interested in Oshi, started hanging out with friends after school, and repeatedly asked for more money because his monthly allowance wasn't enough. I told her many times that I would get more allowance if she helped out around the house, but she simply refused, saying that she didn't need it. Eventually, he started selling expensive things in the house on the app without permission and taking money from my wallet. By that time, there was almost no conversation between me and my ex, and we were in a state of family separation. Even when I tried to ask him for advice, he just kept his eyes on his smartphone or the TV and didn't ask anything. And before I knew it, I had gotten over the fact that it was money that my friend was earning, so I didn't care how my daughter spent it. With that background, I thought that even if I didn't take any revenge, Rio's selfishness and my ex-husband's indifference and spoiling would eventually destroy them. Your salary was completely disappearing to his affair partner and daughter. After telling him that, I told him how I had been managing the household finances for the past few years. On the surface, Tomoaki acted like the breadwinner of the family, but most of the monthly living expenses came from my salary. What? Then what should I do to make up for the shortfall from now on? My ex-husband yelled and slammed the table. At that moment, the front door sounded open and my daughter in a suit came stomping into the living room. They told me that the admission procedures hadn't been completed, but Rio shouted at me with her nails red with red face. What, if you didn't do it yourself, there's no way you'll do it again. Normally a parent would do it, right? I don't know. My daughter yelled, showing her anger. In fact, the day after Tomoaki gave her the certificate, it was the deadline to submit the entrance fee and necessary documents for the university she was planning to attend. I had completely abandoned the process. I decided that I no longer had anything to do with my daughter, who had declared at that time that she would live with her father of her own volition. Of course, I didn't leave her there irresponsibly. I put the admission documents in a place where they were easy to see, and attached a note with the payment deadline and necessary information. However, this is the result of her not even looking at them and assuming that it was natural for her mother to do it. Today was the entrance ceremony. When she tried to register, there was no name, and when she checked with the office, she was told that her admission had been cancelled. Rio looked at me as if she was asking for help. Mom, please do something. Hey, can't you stop relying on me only when it's convenient for you? You're the one who abandoned me. My daughter took a step back with a shocked look on her face, but I had no reason to be with her. From now on, you have to take responsibility for your own life. That's what it means to become an adult. Rio didn't seem to have anything to say in response, so she just looked down. I quietly took out the envelope from the envelope and handed it to Tomoaki. He opened it with a relieved look on his face and looked through the documents and photos inside. There were photos of my ex-husband cuddling with a woman, photos of the hotel, and screenshots of line conversations. What is this? I had noticed something vaguely until now. But now that this child has become an adult, I have started to move with a view to divorce. When I told him quietly, his face turned pale. I thought it was enough to just get used to freedom. But this is my right, so I will ask for compensation and property division. Wait a minute. You seem to have found a lot of other women, so you probably don't have any savings. We have no choice but to sell the house. Don't decide on your own. Please don't do that. I already have a new wife and a child, and I'm moving here soon. Akira bowed his head desperately again and again, but I ignored him and quietly took out my smartphone and played the video. On the screen, I saw Moto and my daughter, who knew I was Tadashi and continued to say terrible things to me. In this case, I will demand compensation for mental distress. From both of you. Are you a regular? I don't have that kind of money. Rio is the same. I'm not working yet, and I can't be that bad. I cried out in a groan. The two of them couldn't hide the evidence I had presented and their quiet shaking. Although they were impatient, they started to speak up. I was really stressed out at work, and when I said something harsh to you at times like that, it made me feel better. He said, glaring at me and spitting it out. He said that when he saw me silently enduring whatever he said without arguing, he began to think that this woman would forgive him no matter what he said. I was annoyed by the fact that you valued your family. That's why I cheated on you so many times. It was annoying to feel that everything was tied to my family. Domio was overcome with the truth that he had been keeping deep in his heart. Next to him, his daughter also looked down and spoke her mind. At first, I was just imitating my father. Also, he was nervous every day because of the entrance exams and was getting irritated, so it seemed that he felt a little better if he said something harsh to me at times like that. Then, before he knew it, he started to find my existence annoying and treated me like a fire government. Silence flowed in the room. As I listened to their confession, I was just shocked and angered, and just dumbfounded. I never thought that all the efforts I had made for my family had been trampled on in such a way. Then Rio suddenly stood up and approached Amy, who was next to me. These kids want to live with me again. Mom, come back home too. We can all start over, right? My daughter said this with an innocent smile. I think so. Let's start over as a family again. We'll change. To match those words, my ex-husband came to me in a pleading voice. But at that moment, they growled at the usually calm Amy and Tomoaki. Then, after a bark, they turned their lips, exposed their fangs, and lightly bit into their daughter's feet. What? Why? It hurts. Tell me. What's wrong? Make them quiet quickly. The two of them just panicked. These kids were watching. Who is my real family? Who hurt me? Everything. That's why I don't think of you as family anymore. My ex-husband and Rio looked at me with learned faces and seemed to be trying hard to say something, but my heart was already hardened. I'll tell you everything from now on through my lawyer, so I'm not going to listen to your requests anymore. With that, I started walking towards the entrance. Wait. Let's talk properly. That's right, it's really not your mother. I could hear the two of them crying out from behind me, and it echoed throughout the room, but I didn't look back. When I went outside the house, the sky was everywhere and I felt the haze that had been weighing on my heart for so long clear up. After consulting with a lawyer, I asked my ex-husband for 2 million yen as compensation for his infidelity, plus his share of the assets. I also asked for 1 million yen in compensation for the mental anguish from Tomoaki and my daughter. The house was sold and my ex-husband paid off the debt with the money, but the loan remained and I was left with only debt. The woman he cheated with showed her love for him and disappeared, and upon investigation, I heard that Tomoaki may not be the father of the child in her womb, and that my ex-husband and Rio are currently living in a rundown apartment. My daughter's skin blemishes have not changed and she is living a difficult life, but that is no longer of concern to me. Meanwhile, I am living a peaceful life. In fact, I passed the high school certification exam a few years ago and plan to take the university entrance exam next year. I still have a lot of life ahead of me and I will continue to walk my own path.